Yeah, this is Bhraghu Haritas from the Economic Times CIO, and I welcome you all in this roundtable discussion on building data-driven business. So, as enterprise tech leaders are increasingly digitizing business processes, they are also realizing the need for, capitalizing on data. But in many cases, businesses invest in data analytics tools without ensuring their data readiness, and they end up creating lesser value out of their data. And this is a really big challenge that organizations are facing today. To discuss more on this, we have with us Mr. Prashant Momaya, who is the head of customer consulting from Tableau India. And I would request all of you to actively participate in the discussion. So, to start off with, how can big data analytics come across as a competitive differentiator for an enterprise? I'll start with you, sir. How can big data enhance the business growth within an enterprise?
Yeah, it will help us in many ways, because like we can do credit level analytics, we can do credit underwriting, we can build report as per the business requirements. So yeah, in many ways it will help us.
Okay, and what about you, sir?
We are existing users of Tableau, so we use Tableau for doing all those things in our organization. Correct. So
data analytics is really helpful.
yes, it helps.
And what about you, sir? Your take on data analytics?
We have data. I am from a manufacturing organization, basically from a pharma. So we manufacture and sell. So the analytical tools do help us a lot to know how is the business doing. Am I increasing the shareholders' value or no? How do we do that? By increasing the revenue. So we see that am I increasing the revenue or no? How am I doing as a business versus the budgets? And then I can drill it down to the lowest level, right up to the MR level. So we have the data, and the analytical tools do help us a lot, so that there are clickable, drillable, there are data sheets, and we know how each division or a region or a territory is performing.
It helps in simplifying things.
I think if your revenue is doing the better, the rest will follow. So it does help us a lot, and we have been using for past the 12 years.
Okay.
We don't use Excel sheets. All of our meetings are using the dashboards.
All right.
So everybody has the same figures.
Okay. And what about you, sir?
Yeah, I'm Rishi from Wokhart. I take care of digital customer experiences. Primarily, I'll say in brief that data is the new oil in 2027.
Right.
Of course, everybody says it. But getting data insights is the most important aspect. So I think Apoorv will add further on that front. But I will say that we ensure that the data insights, how it is seen by the top management and how it's seen at the frontliners, has to be different, and at the top at every level it will help us to make meaningful decisions. So be it a CEO, his requirement is different. If you talk about medical representative, the front end salesperson, his requirement is very different, but we have to present the data in such a manner that if I talk about medical rep, he gets an insight about a customer, his past behavior, his psychographic profile, his demographic profile. That will all come from data. So I can keep on going on and on. So let me stop over here, and I think that's it.
And what about you, sir?
So good evening, everyone. I think the data today, analytics is more. It eases the measurement. It could be any KPI what we want to measure, and we at Wokhart, of course, we are a Tableau customer. We use Tableau extensively, and then the way you look at the analytics. So. The target or who are the target audience? Your analytics keep changing, and you just can't overboard someone with more analytics. Then it's going to be an issue. So we are traveling in the journey of from descriptive to predictive to prescriptive. So that's where we are toggling between. We haven't reached at the cognitive level. We are aspiring to, but we haven't reached. That's one point. Second area where analytics also, though we moved it, but the interpretation of that analytics, when he sees, or anybody sees the graphs or the distribution, we interpret differently. So how analytics takes care that it makes the reading for everyone in a similar way. So that's where we are targeting our analytics into. Just not mere describing a measurement, but how you interpret that measurement is what we are looking for.
All right. And what about you, sir?
Yeah, I think the rest of the guys have made a pretty good remark on this. So the way I look at data analytics is this is our bread and butter for going forward. I would say in the traditional world, data analytics has been looked at as reporting in dashboard. We made the same statement last week in another forum. Yeah, if you look at it from the front end, customer facing, sales and marketing to supply to QA to manufacturing, the entire chain has tons and tons of data sitting there. I think most of the organizations are scratching the surface at the moment. Some people have gone and taken further leaps into it. If you look at my organization, I think on the sales and marketing, we have gone a little bit more deeper. But if I look at supply chain or if I look at manufacturing and QA, the data is there. They use it for daily measurements on what is supposed to be done and how are we doing. But beyond that, how can I improve the performance of the equipments, for example? Or how can I meet demand and supply better? How can I supply what is actually needed in each of my depots? That kind of deep analytics and also predicting how can I improve the performance of the business, we are not there yet. Yeah. So there's a large scope that we need to go after,
right.
And which is where we are looking at proper help from different tools as well as mechanisms.
All right. And what about you, sir? Your views on data analytics. How important is it for an enterprise?
We are from a fiber company and we are in a fashion-driven atmosphere. We are not a direct link with the consumer. Most of it has to do with the insights, which you don't really feed up. We take information, get it, but most important is getting it analyzed. That's one, insights. Next is competitive landscape. We make man-made cellulose fiber, and there are other fibers like cotton, polyester around. How do we get those feedback from the consumer and also the way those fibers are going across the chain? So it's mostly marketing insights, consumer side and the trade side, which is being done very effectively. The competition landscape is more of still getting in feedback and putting it across, clubbing it together and then studying it. It's time consuming, we need clearly to improve on that. Decision making, again, prediction is critical. There is a challenge here in terms of analyzing the data. Even whatever you do, there's no data enough to get to a correct prediction. So there are challenges in data, but using it for marketing, we do.
So what about you, sir?
Every company has data. It all depends on how accurate that data has been captured, what analysis or interpretation somebody said, you can draw. So I think Tableau like thing or to gives you a visualization layer, which is, you don't have to put a lot of brain into it. But creating those visualization layers itself requires a lot of brain.
Okay. So only benefit which you get is, everybody has same insight for a given interpretation which we have done, so that the business decisions at different layer can be taken, in same fashion. It will not change by changing the person. So that is how it helps. Any company's growth is limited, if they don't analyze the data and utilize the data which is available with them.
All right. And what about you, sir?
Data is critical. It increases the ROI. And if you see, I come from a real estate background. So here, it's a critical decision is buying your home.
So when the data is there, how you utilize the data? I think it's more than data, it's about utilization of the data. Like something like the data is there, but it becomes old. So if you don't do a progressive analysis or profiling of the data, then it may not be useful after a couple of years. So it becomes critical for us that as a real estate industry, that data is captured, and how you capture it, what are parameters you're capturing the data, and how you are doing a progressive analysis, it becomes critical. And that is where that if you do a good progressive analysis on the profiling data or the way the data is captured, then that impacts the ROI.
I think today we have seen that, you must have seen in last 5 years back, real estate always used to be ATL format. Your print ads, hoardings, that used to be covering 80% of your marketing cost. Today, because of the data, the dynamic way of capturing the data, 70 to 80% has moved to digital marketing. That's a big shift in a category like real estate. And that's purely because of data capturing. As in, earlier, your outdoors will not give a data capturing. But today, if you're doing a digital marketing, your data is captured so nicely and your response time, everything is getting captured. So the customer satisfaction and your referrals, everything is linked to the data capturing methods. So that's what I think it's moving very fast. It's way that you use it and how you want to better your ROI by using the insights from the data.
What about you, sir?
Yeah, for me it's quite interesting. So if I look at my dual role as a CIO, I'm taking care of the enterprise data set basically, and we are generating tons of data in enterprise ERP, right? Mainly we focus on to the reporting and the trends and all that. Beyond that, we don't go in that side. In my digital transformation, where we are trying to position ourselves more from a consumer-centric approach, right? Where we have started doing social media and data analytics, right? Listening and real-time kind of an insight, and that is, to me, is kind of something that will have a differentiator from the brand perspective into the market segment that we are operating. Right? We are into a very conventional market segment. So definitely see that there is going to be some degree of penetration. In my product side, in IoT and real-time analytics and insights, maybe predictive modeling, you can predict the failures of your parts and all that is something that it's going to get into the consumer side of the products. Like we have some IoT products that we are launching where we will be having tons of data generated. For us, the main challenge is that we really don't understand. We have not understood, right, as in domain, how to churn out the data set and come out with the best out of it. Because I see huge potential, but I don't see hardly there is a competency in the market and the skill set, and maybe that can give us some kind of an insight in the predictive failure. Let's suppose I was trying to get into that how consumer appliance can predict the failures of the parts, right? So those kind of thing, it will come definitely that there is a roadmap, but I see that definitely will grow that side. I see a huge potential.
Right.
Thanks.
What about you, sir?
So, like most of the points have everyone covered, right? But one thing is, as a bank, everyone who is sitting here must have more than one account in more than one bank, right? At least 2 or 3. Now, what is the way of I making a customer use my bank detail, their credit card or debit card or net banking? Why somebody use my only, not somebody else's account? Or so that is where the data comes in. How can I connect that customer, and how do I know his buying patterns? For example, when he goes to a shopping area or shopping complex or a mall, whether when he visits there, whether he buys what he buys and whether what he eats. So suppose next time he visits there, can I give some offer of a nearby place, or can I ask them? For example, currently he is using an iPhone. So if new version comes up, that information, if I had that information, obviously I'll say then you can buy a new model of the iPhone, new version of the iPhone, right? So these kind of things, that data can only help us. Without that, it is not possible. The other part would be, as a bank, as we are having an open banking, the threats are also coming in, okay, frauds. And so that is a way where how can I predict the fraud? How can I find it out from the transaction, the hell lot of transaction which is happening now? And that there the big data helps us, that what we are implementing, where we are getting the volumes of data inputting into our system, then processing and converting that data into information and reports and actionables. So that is where for me, for a bank per se, the data helps. and data analytics.
So one thing is clear that data analytics is key to business growth. Now, I would like to ask the participants that how are they leveraging data analytics within their organization. To start off with you, so how are you using data analytics? Could you share a use case, specific use case that you have implemented data analytics?
No, so I've already shared one use case where where you're using the data analytics for underwriting purpose. So we are just getting the data for various customers, various leads and all, and we are running the analytics, and then we are using it at that purpose.
All right. What about you, sir?
Oh, thanks for asking. I'll give you the real example. I will not talk general. Sorry for that. See, I said we are using the analytical tools. So my rep is also using the same tool. It's there. So if I'm a MR, if I take that as an example, I see that the MR has to visit the doctors. And there is a target for the MR, that today the MR has to visit 10 doctors. So the tool tells us that today, Suresh, you have to visit 10 doctors. This is the route that you need to follow. So when I go to the doctors, I need to carry the promotions along with me, the material, so that I can do the detailing to the doctor. So it gives the information to the MR. So it is not only just the display of my KPIs, but it also it also acts as an enabler to me, saying that, how do I pack my bags? So when I go to the doctor, what do I need to carry? Do I need to carry the samples? Do I need to carry some promotional material? What do I need to talk to the doctor? The specialty doctors that I am visiting it. So based on that, I prepare myself. So in the morning first half, am I going to see only the cardiologist? And the rest part of it, am I going to see the other specialty doctors? So that the working is already done, and it helps. The analytical tool helps him to manage the day. It also tells him that, yesterday I was supposed to visit 10 doctors, but I have only covered the 8 doctors. That means I am lagging behind. Per visit, I know he gets some the bonuses, the performance bonuses. So if he visits more number of doctors, he gets the more bonus. So that also it tells the device, the smarter device on which he sees all this information. Plus, he also makes the visits to the lot of chemists, and he goes and asks the chemist that, whose prescriptions are coming more, which companies? Is it Ocards, or is it JV Chemicals, or maybe the Glaxo for that matter? And he has to then give that information through the same tool. I guess the Tableau also accepts the inputs from the users. So through that way, we are capturing what's happening in the market. Which medicines are more with the particular retailer in that area. We do capture that, and it helps us a lot. So if we capture, there is a team sitting in the back end, they analyze this. He mentioned about the insights. So we get those insights, and based on that, the future actions have been planned. So our MR is more informative than the others. That is what is our objectives to be in the market. That's the real example.
So what about you, Mr. Gowalkar? Any specific use case?
We are into lending business. We are an NBFC. So obviously, we have to take care when we lend money to someone. So to tackle that and to lower our NPAs, we need data. So let it be background verification, CIBIL score, as you said, underwriting, whatever we can do. Even there are many things like we get from the market which enable us to take a decision whether to lend or not lend. Apart from his documentation, what he submits. So data helps us.
All right. Yeah. And what about you, sir? You said you have a lot to share on data analytics.
Yeah, there's a lot. We've got a lot of stories over there.
Yes, we would like to hear.
But I will share only 2 of them. One is from the customer point of view, but let me take it forward for what Suresh was talking about when we talk about the Salesforce excellence part of it, where we capture the effort data of the reps. But I will talk about the integrated part of it. So wherein we have data and all data to talk to each other. Wherein there is a effort data, there is a learning and development data with the competency part, and there is sales data. So then we do a correlation of it and we decide upon the efficiency of a representative, efficiency of a team, efficiency of a division. So we give a score to each of the person which talks about the efficiency of the person. We call it competency efficiency. So that gives us a clear indication that where this particular person is with respect to efficiency, and the parameters are what? The number one is sales, which is the outcome, but the input data is what efforts and the learning and development. So my LMS is giving a separate insights, we're integrating it with the efforts, and at the same time we're getting data from the sales, which sales MIS is giving us. So this is one part of it. There are other aspects also from which we are capturing from the manufacturing and other things, but I'll talk about another one which is from the digital marketing, because I'm taking care of learning and development digital marketing. So in learning and digital marketing, we are doing the social media campaigns, and I think the data which is coming from social media, which Sir mentioned about it, it's awesome. For example, we get the likes, the engagement level, the social listening part, what other the thinking. So wherein we had done a campaign recently, wherein particularly for the headache campaign, we were able to engage the target audience, which was specifically targeted who are having those kind of issues and those doctors who are taking care of those things. So we can do a targeted campaign only because of the data part.
Right.
And we can get those kind of ROIs and outcomes because of that. I think in short we can talk this.
Yeah. And what about you, sir?
Yeah, so in our case, I think similar business cases are there from a sales and marketing point of view. But one of the interesting things that we have done in Lupin is the chatbot, Anya, which is basically leveraging a lot of the data that we have from the product composition, the drug effectiveness, the characteristics, the features, plus also the usual questions that you and I as a patient or a consumer would have about that particular condition. So we started off with diabetes, started off very basic questions and answers that used to be captured in there, and it has a learning algorithm as well. So now if you look at it, it has diabetes, TB, and also cardiovascular diseases covered in it, and we have now launched in Tamil and Telugu as well. Okay, so there is English, Hindi, and Tamil and Telugu. More languages will be taken on board as well. So if you look at it, the data that goes into that starts from the R&D activities that we have, the consumer feedbacks that we get, the testing results that we have, the usual concerns that people have. All the data, internal as well as external, has been taken and curated, and that is how we have built the chatbot, and it's continuously learning. And there is about a couple of million chats who has already happened in this chatbot, and it's getting really very popular. And other markets in our ecosystem is wanting to do the same now, and we're going to help reapply this. So this is a very interesting use case that we have.
How do you see big data analytics as a competitive differentiator for your enterprise?
Data analytics is the big is not there.
Okay.
We are doing research engine, and we hardly have 3,000-4,000 customers. So that's not much on that front.
So are you leveraging it for business growth?
Pardon me?
Are you leveraging data for business growth?
Of course.
Could you help us with some use case that you are currently working on, or any project that you have recently?
So basically, so L&D is more of a SAP and a Microsoft shop, basically partners with SAP and Microsoft. So on the SAP front, we have business objects, and on the Microsoft front, we have Power BI. So business object is there for 10 years now, okay, everywhere. But then around 2016 also, it went away, okay. It was not that lucrative. So we had to move on to Power BI. And we use Power BI extensively, okay, across the whole spectrum. All the applications like SAP and SharePoint, and now also Salesforce, okay, the data from Salesforce coming up. So we use Power BI excessively. We are trying to look at Tableau, but it's a challenge. It's not that simple. Okay. Connecting it with SAP tables is quite difficult. Okay. We have tried with Salesforce. Okay, it's not. It's like average. A lot of expertise is required. Okay. So it's a long journey. Right? So that's where we stand. What interests me is we are trying to make a
AI-based project management system, which can talk to the MS project and to SAP and to Salesforce and to my DMS and to my BIM and everything, and I can pull out data from everywhere. So that's a dream project which we're working on. We have bought extractors for that, from various companies. So that's the journey which we're going on. So we have realized that it's very difficult to connect to any source system. Maybe it's MSP, SAP, Salesforce. It's quite difficult to really extract the whole, because everything is customized, frankly. Okay, so those standard APIs do not work that effectively. So and then to work on a custom build, it's quite costly. The best way is to just dump data out on a SQL server and then run the reports either using Tableau or Power BI. So like that's our experience.
So, what challenges do you think that the industry face when it comes to leveraging data? Be it that the data source is not trustworthy, be it is unstructured. What are the other challenges do you think are related with data analytics and leveraging data?
If you have manual feeding, there's a human error possible. But with digitalization today, that's more or less taken care of, because you have real-time information and you have to build the skill to have real-time information processed. That's something we need a training on, because people are used to monthly reports and getting across and taking decisions, whereas any click today gives us data, because we are working directly with a consumer with a brand called Viva, whereas we are 5 steps behind the consumer being in 5 years. So the insights right in front, how to really work that out requires training. That's a challenge initially, that's overcome. Then how to process real-time data to make effective decisions, because real-time does not allow you to keep ruminating over the data for decision making. So you have to be nimble-footed enough to get used to that information and get used to taking actions fast. So that's another thing which we need to do. Third is the IT systems. There are challenges when you partner some other companies. The legacy systems are different. The information flow comes in a variety of forms. Then collating and getting it across into useful information becomes a challenge. So these are broadly challenges which we have faced when we do. But the importance of data, importance of capturing value from data, nothing less can be said about it. But these challenges need to be overcome, because partnering collaboration is a big thing in the industry, and we need to have some unifying force. Data is same for all, but it comes in different forms.
Yes.
Just to add on to what he said, one of the challenges which I really part of identified. So data democratization, company-wide, data-driven culture has to be pronounced in the entire organization. Because the thing is that how to read data, how to analyze data, how to visualize data, whether you are easily able to access the data or not. Because I'm part of maybe regulatory compliance and this. So regulators come up regularly with a lot of data, lot of iterations of data, and if you don't have a proper data literacy in terms of understanding data, access to data, I mean, it's a big issue. I'm telling you, because what will happen that you are going to give 5 kinds of data, 5 different types, and then it is going to come on the back of you and say that your data is totally not it's not correct. So I think that access to data and that data democratization, that is very important in today's industry, especially financial industry.
What do you think is the biggest challenge to leveraging it?
Before the challenge, I have one point on the data part of it. I think today, if you see, if you have a right amount of data, I think one of the trend which is going on is the crowdsourcing. I think we have also started on that format. So that actually helps in terms of getting real insight. If you have a proper data, we do the bucketing of the data in different buckets. And then you start doing the remarketing with the different communications. So today data helps you to categorize different communication to different set of consumers. I think that is the biggest advantage that is got through data. Otherwise earlier, I think a couple of years back, you used to have one single communication for everyone. Today with the data bucketing, that has been possible that you have the flexibility of bucketing the data and putting a communication which is part of your marketing and remarketing part to a different set of data points. And second thing is the crowdsourcing part of it. I think that is helping the organization in a big way. Today, you do anything, instead of going out, experimenting with the product or the project, do a crowdsourcing part with the data that you have. You cut the data as per the data requirements in terms of profiling and then get into that. The challenge part will be still we don't capture the data properly. I think the data means, I don't think we get the income level of data. Like if I have to profile the data, still we struggle today to get what is the income of the prospect or the consumers or customers. So that we don't get accurately. So that becomes a big thing that, we capture everything, but if you don't know his income, in most of the cases that you are not sure about the data. So some of the data points like income level, kind of business that you do, those are the basic data that we don't capture it properly. The challenge is to how to capture that. And second part of challenge is that what I was telling, how to update the data. You have captured the data, but you need to keep on updating the data maybe once in a year or once in 2 years. So that progressive profiling, that becomes critical.
Okay. What about the challenges, sir?
I'll tell you my personal experience. So what happens when you buy a product, then people will come and say कि sir report आपके साथ बैठेंगे and जैसा आप report बोलोगे बना के दे देंगे, and that that sets the expectation of the business. Now when the implementation comes, people say अरे the data is in history, the transaction is in real time, and you want to join that table. So ऐसा नहीं होगा. There has to be customized code which has to be written. So there is the expectation management is the biggest problem. There are challenges, but somebody has to tell that these are the challenges which you will face when you do the implementation. That all the data is not there at one place; it is scattered around. So that is the biggest challenge which I feel.
What about the challenges that you think?
Again, in our case, the trade channel, conventional offline channel, right? We really don't have any mechanism to capture any data, right? Like in our case, we have secondary and tertiary sales on the retail side. But there is no mechanism to capture, right? Because we don't own the point of sale solutions. It's not integrated. So it's through the dealer, distributor, and their retailers, right? So that is one big challenge that we have. Consumer side also, since the industry in India, I'm talking mainly from Indian consumers' perspective, we don't really have that kind of data set where we can churn out analytics, insights, and all that. Little bit, I would say in social media, we get some data insight, we get something in the commerce side, e-com and other digital channels. But if you look at overall, because 90% is the, it's a conventional business, right? 10% is only digital as of now, in our case. And we are building, we are growing towards that. But that's the biggest challenge. And the correlation between the offline channel and the online channel, right? There is no way you can actually reach out to a conclusion. If something is working on your online, it will definitely work on the offline channels. So those are the biggest challenges that I could see.
And what about you, sir?
I think the accuracy of data, as I said earlier, what to capture and how to capture.
Right.
Nowadays, lots of data, they are not clear what is to be captured. With IoT coming picture, we are keeping our data.
So data is not a problem. What you are capturing is a problem, and the channels from where they are coming. Accuracy of that data, what inferences you want to take out of it, how you want to store the data. There are so many duplicate channels. You duplicate data, terabyte, and then the data storage itself a challenge. You will crunch the data only when you know the data, you have the good data,
Quality of
that's quality data. So it's like traffic. People talked about, the social network. You can drive a lot of traffic, but what is the quality of traffic? If you talk about travel domain, there is a lot of money which people pump in to drive traffic. But just hitting a website is not a traffic. Conversion of that quality of data, conversion, all those things translate into quality of data. So that's one part. The other part is, there are a lot of reports everybody wants. In my organization, I might have 3,000 reports. but I'm not sure if even 10 or top 100 reports might be seen by top 500 people. That's a question mark. When you give flexibility to people, they will create a lot of reports. It will be again a repository of reports. That is the challenge which I see. So what reports to make, are we storing data correctly? Are we giving web services out of that data? How we are storing data? Is it a warehouse? Is it a data lake? All those things, you are in a round robin circle to decide what to do. Technology is a challenge, as I said. Skills is a challenge. Everybody talks about data scientists, and what kind of inferences they take out is question mark. People create reports, but inferences, who will teach them to take out inferences out of it? Even sometimes business doesn't know what kind of report they want, what kind of inferences they want to drive out of it. It's all question mark.
Because I think the another challenge, the biggest challenge is the runtime or the client access licensing cost. Okay. I have the data, I trust my data is accurate. I'm not stupid enough to capture anything nonsense from the market. Okay, so when we develop it, we know what we are capturing it, and what is the purpose of it. So we have data, no problem with the storage. Today the market, based on what I understand, I just want to share, please don't take it as easy. If there is a data, simple sales data, there are tons of algorithms available in the RDBMS today. It's free. If we give supply only sales data to these algorithms, tons of charts, KPIs, everything will be thrown out. We just need the good visualization tools like the Tableau or a ClickView or a Power BI. Today what is killing us is the runtime cost. If I have to deploy to my 2000, 3000 MRs, I need to buy those licenses. Even Power BI, for example, they say that you buy the enterprise license, the cost shoots up just to do the deployment. The challenge is the client access licensing cost today. Data is there are a lot of tons of tools, my dear friends. Give simple sales data. When you talk a sales, you know the geography, you know the sales organization, you know the time horizon, you know the product hierarchy. So quadrants are already there in the sales. You can bring data anywhere from anywhere today. That is not a problem. I can bring data from any source to anywhere. That is also not a problem. The problem today, the biggest challenge, is the client access licensing cost. I don't have a problem with a Tableau developer or a ClickView developer. I know why I am bringing them on the board. With whether am I ready? Do I know what I am expecting out of them? Why they are in my organization? What are they going to develop or deliver over a period? If I know it, it's easy to get the work done. That's also not a problem. It has to be very short, quickly develop, deliver, give it to the business. That's how I will go closer to the business. Else there is a distance. I can't cry. I can't talk about the constraints. I need to provide solution. That's how I think the biggest challenge today is the cost of the client access licensing cost. So there is a server part and there is access part. My God, the costs are the mountain. Okay. So every time there is a pressure on the sales team to increase the revenue. Why there is no pressure on the operating the team? They have to increase the operating income, reduce the operating cost. So this is one of the greatest challenge. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay.
I was heading the L&D ECC, and my background is from the application development. So I'll be a little more specific if anybody wants to know.
What do you think are the biggest challenges that you have faced or you think are pertaining within the industry related to data analytics?
I think most of the points have been covered. One of the biggest issues that I see in a geography like India, so I've been in FMCG world and now I'm in pharma, both of these domains, the volume of data is quite high. And it is not so much of a visualization issue, it is about making sure the models are created correctly, aggregated, the querying is written appropriately so that the user does not get bored waiting in front of the screen, trying to get the outcome of what they're trying to get out of the system. This drives the adoption, and if adoption doesn't happen, they quickly retort to Excel files, Excel formulas. So keeping the user interested. One of the key parameters is performance, and this performance has linkages to all those points that I've talked about. How do you create the data lake? How do you create the cluster? How do you create the models? How do you create the aggregation? How do you write the queries? All those things are extremely important, apart from the commercial challenge that he has already talked about.
Yes. What about you, sir? Specific challenges that you face?
The analytics is not new, to be honest. It's only productized now to a large extent. But everyone in organization, you will always feel Excel or some tool was always existing, and we were very good in converting rows and columns to the colorful dashboard. So that always existed. It's nothing new in that. Now, where the challenges is, since the analytics world is getting productized, we are trying to unify a solution across the organization. So that's a big challenge, and predominantly if depend from where it is driven. If it is driven from IT, it becomes all the more difficult. If it is owned by the business, then probably the more challenges in the business at what level they are owning. It is top down or it is from the middle layer. Then he only it stays there. It doesn't go down. That's one problem which the adoption generally and the life is very short of a dashboard or analytics if you only make dashboards or analytics as a consumption analytics. If you don't make it an actionable analytics, then it has a very short life. So that's where we create a repository and it doesn't really long last. That's major cost, of course, Suresh has spoke about, because one of the very important part of it, let's say you create a dashboard or an analytics. Now you want to send that dashboard to 100 people. Now, once you send that or broadcast that, the product today asks is whether they have a access license or not. Now that becomes my limitation to reach this dashboard through my email to 100 people or 1,000 people. So that's one of the area which we look at it. Third is, if you see an organization, the review hardly happens on an online dashboards what you create. It get created, it is get reviewed in the meeting, and sometimes some people do a dashboard on Excel and it dies away. So the review has to happen online. Then only the life of the dashboard is very high. To me today, technology part is very much addressed. If you don't have it, you co-partner, you get it. It's really not. The technological skill is really dying unless you're getting into, I said it, let's say, predictive, where we also tried out. We modeled many of the things using many of this machine learning algorithm, and we use Tableau for visualization after the modeling. When you're getting into that part of it, yes, the technological skills are very important, paramount, and necessary to have it. There's a challenge there. We are also trying to get into, we have done, the analytics, kind of analytics we have reached, it's very, very high. We have gone to the level to make our financial income statement online. We broke the very month end mein mera income statement aayega, main dekhunga. No, we broke that paradigm. Today we have our income statement which is online. And we also have what if analysis, very tight to it. If I know that my tachometer shows that I'm in raw range or red, what is that I need to do? Which is those 10 variables or 10 parameters I need to move it. It could be cost line, it could be top line, it could be some of the control variable which I need to move out so that I will be. So, and it's an online real-time what if analysis we did. So, we found technological skills is really not challenging if you're not going to the higher dimension of analytics. Otherwise, these are some of the adoption is predominantly who wants it. That's the major fight we see there. And I talked about the broadcasting, because in pharma, the major is, let's say we have a 3,000 plus field force. If I need to broadcast something or push some information, which is auto-generated and pushed, The bugger who wants to review it on or want to see it, he will आप पूछेंगे उसको मुझे view license दे दो और कुछ दे दो. So then it becomes an issue. And then because of this, we are forced to shift to some of the very open tools which we are using today. Very interestingly, another observation which we had it, most of the apex level people, they don't have time to log into the system. And that's our obvious.
सब जगह पे
तो मुझे आपको रेडीमेड चाहिए यार, कोई सेक्रेटरी बताओ मेरे को निकाल के दे दो. So we have learned this over a period of time. Now what we do is we started pushing the very, very critical dashboard through the email. There also there is learning, they don't want to open the attachment. Let it be part of the body. So this comes as a part of the learning. And it has worked for us. So if you say all critical KPIs in our organization, they are pushed, whether it is collection, whether it is cash flow, whether it is my EBITDA related, or whether it is my top line related, people will get on the body of the mail. It's a global dashboard which they can see it on in the body of the email. So that's a way we have learned a very hard way. These are the challenges we face. But are there alternatives available? Yes. Can we make it happen? Yes. It's a matter of time. And how do you do that?
Your take on the challenges, sir?
Correct. So obviously Tableau and then now I think Salesforce, right? So we are a Salesforce user, Tableau, we have Power BI, we have a SaaS, tools we use.
Okay.
Correct. So licensing is the one part, that's obvious. So we are a 11,000 employee organization. So obviously we cannot leverage these BI tools to share reports among all. The fact all employees don't need those dashboards, first of all. The thing is that even for smaller groups or board members or meetings, we cannot share because of the viewer license. Again, those are not techie people who knows how to log in and view those reports. As you said, we'll have to email them or do some sort of juggling. Apart from that, I don't think so. We are good to go. Otherwise, there are open source tools available, and even we are evaluating what to do. Or generic challenges, like standard generic challenges, nothing specific. Because end of the day, these BI tools doesn't generate any data. They take your data and just give you meaningful insights and colorful graphs and all this. So those combinations are here and there similar in all BI tools. So that's it. Yeah.
So Prashant, you have heard the leaders talking about the challenges
I have a few points.
Yeah.
So the first point on the challenge is that people are so used to the ERP, like SAP and all that all these years they always had drill down. Okay. So you can go from SES to PO to PR to all such things. Okay, so just drill down and see the whole trade. What happens is when you go into a BI mode, the drill down is not available. Many reports are only statistics. 50 by a holding, 20 by a newspaper, 60 by a phone call. Then as you go deeper and deeper, okay, you can't really identify. So those were the errors which you found with Power BI. So it stops at some point. So when you go in an online meeting, with the Apex meeting, you say all दिखाओ. Sorry sir, वो data नहीं है. So then to build the model, it takes another 10-15 days. So that's an ongoing thing. Okay. So we are at the receiving end all the time. So then they say, okay, get the reports. That's the first point which is there of drill down, which is not still available. Now to connect online, people still can't understand SAP or not they can understand Salesforce. It's a big issue. Okay. And as you customize more and more, it's just not possible. The second thing is that the management always gives something on paper. This is the report which I want. Then after we say, okay, this is what you want, then we build the whole structure. Then they say, no, ऐसा नहीं चाहिए, ऐसा चाहिए. Okay. Then we start using the report. Then we again change it. So this is an ongoing thing. From the paper to the structure to the actual using of reports. So it's always a moving target. And what happens is we can't have that much money in hand to develop those kind of reports. Okay. The third thing which is there is the graph types. They see some graph somewhere, say, कल से ये graph on कर दो. अरे my tool is not having, कल से चाहिए मेरे को. That's a demand. Okay. The fourth thing is that like when I used to manage the SAP Treasury for LNT Group, we said give me simulation. If I do a trade of $500 million more, okay, what is the effect of that? Now SAP won't give me simulation, and the whole simulation is not there on Bobji. What do? I have nowhere to go. Okay, I want a tool which will replicate the whole instance and give me the whole instance, and I dynamically put one more trade and see how it affects me. Those things are not available. Neither SAP can give, neither Bobji can give, neither Tableau can give. Nobody can give those kind of simulations. The fifth thing is the data lake. Now, data lake is being told about for the last 5 years. Data lake. Okay, nobody knows really how to make a data lake. Whatever tools are about so costly. Then AWS can make a S3 data lake, push data there. But how do you get data out of SAP? From Salesforce, from so and so? It just won't come out. And how much data out? Then comes the matter of compliance. My account says, इसको बाहर में लेके जाओ, इसको अंदर रखो. Then I made 2 data lakes, one internal, one external. Okay. So on the external front, I bought Salesforce. Okay. I bought Salesforce marketing automation. I say anything outside the company, Salesforce will dump कर लो. My Salesforce marketing automation connects to all data sources. I got at least 30 connections across, and that's doing that for me. But internal data lake still a challenge. Okay, how to populate real-time data? Then comes the problem of reporting. That's a different problem. But basic thing is how to populate that. That's the bigger challenge at the moment.
On the data part, one good example which comes is the e-commerce sites. The way that they capture the data, they do the sale and the upsell. The way that they study the data. I think that's something that to learn about is the e-commerce side in terms of doing the business where the e-commerce is doing. I think that's something that they really capture the data well.
Would anyone else like to add something on the challenges? So Prashant, what are your views on the challenges that we have just heard about?
So all great and valid challenges, right? Everything from cost of licenses down to the data. I like to look at, and I've spent about 20 years in analytics, right? Even before it became that sexy term. I have a degree in optimization, worked on several challenges in the industry. I think the first one, and I'll try and align some of the things that were said to that. One of the key ones is to find a clear objective for analytics, right? I hear dashboards, sales numbers, so on and so forth, and those are valid use cases. But one of the things that most organizations don't do is align a use case with a value statement. What value is this generating for my organization? You can use Tableau to do it, you can use Power BI to do it, you can use open source to do it, you can do it in Excel. You can do it in whatever open source technology you like. Is there value in doing that? And I can give you numerous examples that I myself have worked on. Tableau as a company has worked on thousands more. But one of the things we see is there is a breakdown between what you are trying to do with data versus the kind of value you are generating off the data. For example, right, and I'll use you guys as an example here. What is the value of making a wrong loan? Right? Versus what is the value of a sales guy, a field sales rep, not meeting quota on day 1 of the month? Right? Two different things, right? Here you're probably looking at a single 200 crore transaction, and on the other side you're probably looking at 1,000 rupees a month lost somewhere. Yeah, it multiplies, but one of the failures we see is the inability to align value with the kind of use cases you have. That plays directly into license cost, because sometimes you feel, I have to give this out to 5,000 people. But many times we don't have a very clear value statement on, when I give this out to 5,000 people, what are they going to generate back for the company? We don't have that. We don't record it and document it very well. I'll again put it out there, if there are ways in which you actually document value of your dashboard. Right? Dashboards are easy to do. Right? As long as you have the data, sir, right? Data challenge is always there. But as long as you have the data, it is easy to do. But what is the value of the dashboard you have there? Why is the adoption low? Why are people not using it? It is easy to go after saying that, okay, the costs are too high, but maybe the cost has to match with the value. Right? And that is where we see another gap in the industry. Now, there was also the adoption question that came up a lot, and thank you very much for that data literacy, data culture kind of a thing. Most of our organizations today, unfortunately, are not equipped to deal with data. Right? We are not literate about data. Questions came up about, hey, am I looking at this chart and somebody else looking at the same chart? Are we coming to the same conclusion? That is data literacy. Right? Are you literate about asking for data and working with data? And we see that a lot of companies are not investing enough in developing the groundwork in their employees to work with data. Just giving data is just like the smallest part of the problem. Technology is surmountable. Technology is an easy problem to solve. Culture is the difficult problem to solve. In fact, I can give you some statistics. IDC had a report out there which says some 23% of all analytics projects, only 23% sort of succeeded. Right? Nobody is guaranteedly sure. Right? Massive number of projects fail because of some of the things I stated, and they all came out in the room, by the way. So that is what we have seen as Tableau in the industry happen. There's a few more, and probably as we go to the other questions, I'll bring some of those out as well.
So my next question is again related with data literacy. So given the humongous amount of data that is available within the organizations, how important is the role of organizational hierarchy and the organizational structure in empowering the employees so that they can do critical thinking, they can use that data, and that they can come up with new insights or new ideas? How important is the role of the top level of the organization? Your views, sir.
Definitely, I mean, it has to flow from top, it has to percolate down, and that sense of perceiving data, how do we visualize data, that has to come from top, and then it has to flow down the hierarchy. I mean, that is quite critical. I mean, this is the most important aspect of really. I mean, ultimately, what businesses firms try to do, they try to be data driven. The ideal scenario would be to monetize, the data. What here BNB is doing, they are monetizing data. So for that, what they had done, they had created a culture of, understanding data, trying to, get some meaningful insights. So that culture has to percolate from top to top.
Your view on data literacy, sir, within the organization?
Very, very essential. Coming from learning and development field also, it's very, very essential that we create an ecosystem before we roll out any initiative with respect to tech or digital. We have to empower and engage all the employees down the line, and it has to flow from the top. And for example, we have made a team over here which is a part of IT and from sales, business, and from the learning and development, and we make sure that we create multiple touch points, and apart from training them on using how to use the data or dashboards, we also made sure that it flows from the top. Suppose a business head is there, he is doing a review, although it's a big challenge over there, but he uses the data and demonstrates down the line to the zonal manager that I am doing this review based on the data. So those divisions, verticals which are using this, down the line also they use it accordingly. So for example, frontline managers, they will also try to use that particular data. But wherever the business head is not aligned to using the data, he still is working on the Excels and the printouts of the data. There, the down the line acceptance is a challenge, of course. But I'll still say that the effort should be on, and again it flows from the top, and the compliance has to be there to do. So,
what about you, sir? What are you doing at Lupin for driving this?
See, the data, the real power of data is the insights that you generate and the way that you make it actionable. yeah, and that is directly linked to the organizational hierarchy. Otherwise you can have everybody reporting to the CEO, right? I mean, how do you take the data and then put it into the right level of so that it is actionable, so that it can have an impact in the market. So if you look at the sales organization, for example, it goes from the national sales manager to the regional to zonal to area to the guy on the ground. So the linkage between the question that you asked is organizational hierarchy and data, right? I mean, you have to democratize the data right from the top till the ground level people in actionable chunks. That is a linkage that I see. Yeah. So if you don't have the organizational hierarchy, you wouldn't know how to use the data that you're having and the insights that is coming out of it.
But what do you think about this? So, as sir earlier mentioned, that we don't need to share the data with each one of the employee. But do you think to some extent or some degree, some data should be shared with them so that they can get a clear picture that where the organization is heading and what is it that we can do better to enhance our internal team? What do you think should be done with data literacy and data culture in the same context?
See, there is data security which is also required. Just by putting a paper, next day the entire information can go to competition. So security is important. At the same time, empowerment is important. That's the right balance, because then it requires at what hierarchy, what is shareable, where do we draw the line, and make it open and communicatable to all. Because it's human beings who are going to use all this data. They should use that. Empowerment comes if you give them access and say why it's there. All of us want action. Even what is security bound is there for an action. But who can act is what the hierarchy has to decide and openly communicate about it. That's what we do. There may be some differences which can crop up, or which can then be taken decision on in an ad hoc manner. 99% that's not an issue, because people do appreciate sensitivity of data, and people also understand the importance of data for actionable things.
And what about you, sir? What do you think about this?
I think from my views, empowerment is not an issue. It's about culture. With mobility in picture, people have data on the go. But am I cultured to use that data? Am I logging into the application to see the data, the insights which I'm getting? I don't see that culture in place. I can give access to 50,000 people, but are they cultured to use that data on day-to-day basis, take decisions around it? Still, I feel people have old mindset, still go with Excel sheets. You can have all these things on apps or visualization layer. Still, you have 10 people doing Excel for somebody to show some numbers in some way, because system will show numbers based on the logic which is there. So I think more than empowerment, it's more about culture. It requires enforcement from top to bottom. That I think.
How tough is it to drive a data-driven culture within an organization? Your views?
I think it purely depends. If you can talk about the benefit of the data, I think if each level we can communicate, the organization, the top management can communicate, what is the benefit you get out of the data? If that understanding is there, I think first is that if the data entry operator, if I can tell him or her what is the benefit he gets out of doing the data entry properly. The second time the customer comes, you don't have to fill up the manual form. That's the benefit that I need to tell her. So if each level, the benefits have been programmed well, and if everybody knows that what's the benefit that you get out of the data, then I think it will be an easier thing to implement. I think the major challenge is that the organization doesn't talk about the benefit of the data to each level. If somebody knows the benefit of the data, how it's going to help my professional life, or how it's going to reduce my time in terms of doing some job or operation, then I appreciate it. I think that's a communication which doesn't go. It's only been thrown to you saying that you use it. But what is the benefit of use? I think that has to be communicated.
Your view, sir?
Yeah, I also agree. It's more of a
change management or changing the culture within the organization than the sharing a data set. But I would say rather to give them the insights that helps their businesses and processes to improve. And that kind of an insight, if you can think on the value that you said, that and if you can visualize that what is the value creation that we are doing in this and how it is going to help the business. So that way we can do in a better way rather than just sharing the data set with everybody, right?
Your view, sir?
Yeah, so my view is the same, that what is in it for me? Everybody has to understand that. Like when this data is given to me, what I'm gonna use with it. It should not be forced, somebody should not force me to use that data. It should be realized from that I can do such things with this data and it can help me in such a manner. That has to be identified and understood by everyone.
Okay. And your views on the data-driven culture?
So what happens is nowadays in the last 1 or 2 years we talk like people talk about data all the time. Earlier people used to talk about information. Okay, people used to talk about knowledge and wisdom. I don't know. Suddenly last 2 years it's all data everywhere. So I personally believe that data is very important. It should not be shared with everybody. It can cause havoc if it's shared with everybody. Example is my flat owner's data. If I go to each salesperson, he leaves the company. Then he becomes a broker and starts calling everybody, आपका भाड़े पे देना है क्या? Okay, we want to give a rent. So it's very, and then the customer shouts at me, you're giving my phone number, my email to somebody else and he's calling me all the time. So data should not be shared, okay? Information has to be shared on need basis. So let me give an example of information. Information is like suppose I'm buying this bottle, so what is the price, who's the vendor? That should be passed on. The base data should not be shared. The second part is of wisdom. So this bottle was sold, how was it? The quality, the performance and all such things. Okay, that is basically like the knowledge part. And the wisdom is this bottle applicable here? Yes, it's applicable here. If I go to Europe, they'll kill me. It's a plastic. Okay, so that's wisdom. Now you have to go at that level and not talk about base data. I really get very irritated when people talk about data. So data, you can imagine we are making a smart building with 6,000 sensors. Imagine the data being generated. If I share with everybody, it's going to be like bad for me, right? Just not possible. You can't share data so easily.
So, what are your views on what are the best practices according to you for data-driven culture within the organization?
I don't know. Best practices
to encourage data-driven practices within the organization. What should be done so that they are more empowered or their data literacy is increased, they know how to use it and
So we have, as Tushar rightly said, we have break our data into two parts, data and information. As I said, to all staff, we share only information, where you don't need to share the data. The data is with the stakeholders, business, who makes a decision based out of that data. So interactive dashboards, you don't need to send it to everyone, right? They don't take any actions. They are not supposed to. But you can share the information. You can. So information is shared with everyone. So they know what is happening. Where is our revenues? Where is our sales? Where we are standing today in the market. So every employee should know. That's fine. But they don't act on that data, that information, right? The data is only shared with the stakeholders and in closed doors, where there is an interactive dashboard. They take actions against it.
Or to the limited ones who can actually utilize this data for doing some creative thinking. Yeah. So, Prashant, what are your views on this?
I want to say something.
Please, please go on.
The tool that we have deployed for MR, simple. It tells him that कि बहुत सुबह उसको विश करता है. अगर उसका बर्थडे है तो उसको भी विश करता है. Like the Alexa does it, it does it. The beautiful part of this, the tool that we have deployed, what it does, it tells कि हमारे हे सुरेश, यार तेरे को आज बैग में ये चीज़ भर के लेके जाना है. इतने तेरे को पैम्पलेट्स लेके जाना है. इतना तुमको सैम्पल्स लेके जाने हैं. You need to spend the time with Dr. Manohar or Mohan, maybe more time, because last 10 visits you have spent about more than 20 hours with him, but he has only given you the 1 minute, and he is the one who is writing more prescriptions. or he's not writing the prescription. So I know that, oh, if I go visit this doctor, spend little more time, he will write prescriptions on which my company's the medicines would be written. So that would be a sell. So it acts as a enabler. Look at the culture. WhatsApp के पहले था क्या culture? आज के डेट में सब जन WhatsApp के ऊपर है. Why?
Make it simple.
Can I make my MR's life easy? Performance तो उसको दिखेगा. How is he doing budget versus actually? But उसके अलावा भी बहुत कुछ है. There is a family information about डॉक्टर्स का बर्थडे उसको मालूम है. वो बोलेगा कि आज जाओगे डॉक्टर मनोहर के पास तो उनको विश करो. It makes a lot of difference.
Yes.
MR today आधा घंटा 1 घंटा बाहर बैठता है. Doctor doesn't give even a 1 minute. That's the sad part of the pharma industry.
Yes.
So we need to enable him. We need to give him a tool so that it helps him. It makes his life easy. Less number of inputs. नहीं तो वो बेचारा वो इनपुट करने में जाएगा टाइम उसका. उनसे फ्रस्ट्रेट हो जाता है. Why I should he say मैं ये डिवाइस ये टूल मैं क्यों यूज़ करूँ? How it is going to help me make my life easy? So IT job is to make the end users life easy, efficient, effective. That is what we first do it. Deploy करने के पहले cost ठीक है बाद में आएगा. एक तो है कि deployment का cost ज़्यादा है. Let's accept that. But हम लोग ये भी देखते हैं कि will he use it? उसके पास बैग पड़ा है, उसके पास सैंपल पड़ा है, वजन है उसके ऊपर उसको और दे दो और वो बोलेगा कि मेरे को ट्रैक भी करता है. Whether I have really gone to the doctor or no, you want to track it. That is why you are telling me to use this. They have a union. It's not easy. So I need to make him to convince him how that tool or a device is gonna help him to make his life simple, so that he finishes the visits faster and the remaining time he spends with his family or a girlfriend. So that is what we look at it. It has to be an enabler.
Nicely said.
It should help. कॉस्ट तो फिर बाद में आएगा. वो सब जन चिल्लाएंगे 3000 MR चिल्लाएंगे तो बॉस बोलेगा बॉस 2 करोड़ रुपये चाहिए ना ले तू, लेकिन लेके आ जा तू. दैट इज ऑल्सो फाइन. बट इन रियलिटी थोड़ा उसमें भी है. कॉस्ट में हमको सब बताना पड़ेगा. देयर लॉट ऑफ कॉस्ट कंपोनेंट हैज एवरीथिंग इनटू इट.
This is a really good perspective that we have shared.
Utilizing the data is very important.
One of the other thing is, which we tried, of course, is if you give a data exposure to an individual on need to do and need to know basis, it start complementing his profile, and that's something is very, very vital. Otherwise, if you start exposing him to a plethora of the data, it doesn't work that way. So as Tushar said it, data lake precisely takes care of, this is one of the addressable point. If we have a good data lake design, it does take care of it. And we also have, we have created a huge data lake for our sales side, and that exactly we also have a similar smart bot which helps in, it has become a real digital assistant for a person, and he not only assists him while he makes the sales call or medical rep, but it also assists him in getting what is in it for him. Can he see his achievement? Where is he? How much short he is? Another 2 days, what markup he needs to do it? He gets it. He gets to know his all incentives, everything, and then it makes sense. So prima facie, if you can expose him, need to know basis, I'm sure the data will complement it.
Prashant, your remarks.
So, thank you everyone. These were absolutely great inputs, right? And you are working in this, you are in the thick of it, you have, there are problems you encounter, and obviously it sort of, we could, sense that. There's a couple of things, right? And then, building a data-driven business, and we talk about data culture and stuff like that. I just wanted to take a moment to define something like that, because it's easy to, put culture out there, because it's very difficult to define. It's you cannot touch culture, basically.
It's not easy to change.
Yeah.
Unless there is a value.
Absolutely. And one of the definitions, and this is I'm just sort of paraphrasing Gartner on this one, is a culture that allows people to think critically and argue with data. Now, think critically with data, because one of the things about a data-driven culture is to how do you move decisions from gut feel, I have worked in this industry for 20 years and hence I know how it works, to here is what the data says and therefore I need to change. Right? We have seen industries collapse in front of us, right? Because they didn't pay attention to the data, or somebody who was more data driven than them came and moved the earth from under them.
At least it has become a second opinion now.
Yes.
The people who are judgmental driven, at least this has become the second opinion.
Yeah,
it will change in
absolutely, absolutely. And this is where that culture develops, that people want to look at the data before making a decision. At every level, right? Whether it is that sales rep or his manager, or it is at the top end where they are deciding how many sales reps to put in the field. Right? There is every aspect of that is data culture, right? Where every aspect is supported by data. In some places, if you don't have data, you're trying to figure out ways to collect that data, right? Like tertiary sales kind of a thing, or whether the data entry is correct, or give him an app which it becomes like big brother to him, big boss to him all the time, kind of thing. So we are trying to do that. Now, there is another thing on data culture is the answer to the question, who can do analytics in your organization? And just again, right, we are at definition, so just a definition of analytics is to answer questions with data. It does not say use statistics, use this algorithm, that algorithm. Can you answer a question with data? That is analytics, right? The answer to that question is analytics. Now, if you can answer that, I would, put a question in front of you, and of course not for answer now, who in your organization can do analytics? On the other hand, you map it with who should be doing analytics. Right? These are sort of unasked questions unless you are developing a data culture, right? Because, for example, Rishi sir comes from the training background. He is actually looking at capabilities, right? What capability should this manager have, right? Is data, understanding data and working with data part of it? Probably not, right? We assume those capabilities in many cases. This sales rep. The sales rep is basically, we are being very prescriptive with that person, and we are using him as a point of data entry. But that goes upwards to make decisions, to make other decisions which will affect that sales rep or the products we sell, so on and so forth. So is that manager who is looking at 20 sales reps understanding the data, ability to work with data, or are we being prescriptive? At some level in the organization, we stop being prescriptive. When we stop being prescriptive about what the people can do, those are the people who need to have access to data and platforms to work with the data. And that is a problem to be solved to develop data culture. So that was what I had, sort of distilled out of 2-3 pages of notes. So thank you. Please.
Just want to share with you that,
please.
I have, for the benefit of others, I've written a book, Are You Digital Dinosaur? It's primarily on creating an ecosystem of digitization in the organization. From during the research part, I found out the major challenge is not at the middle and the front end level. The major challenge is at the mindset, the senior level. Okay, and wherever this challenge is taken care, the flow of the things becomes easier. Similarly, what Suresh was talking about is that when we are using technology, we have to humanize that technology also, and we have to again buy in the sales guys' confidence that this is not for tracking part, my dear friend. This is for increasing our efficiency. If we have that kind of buying in with them, then the challenges, the acceptance will be much better. Like any change process or transformation process, the consistency is required, multiple touch points are required, multiple training sessions are required. That will only help us out. I think there were two of them.
Sure. So I want to ask, I'm like ex L&D Infotech and ex startup. So we should always believe on ISO and CMA level 5 for our level of quality and also. Now when we go to data, has anybody made a framework like this? That if you do this much, you are at level 1, do this much level 2, this much level 3, this much level 4. For a corporate world, has anybody defined the level like this?
Yeah, there is. In fact, I'll refer you to Gartner. Gartner has a data maturity model, right, which essentially goes from what are you doing with data and how are you moving up the maturity curve. I can send you a link to that article. It is pretty well defined. It's called the data maturity model, similar to the CMM kind of a thing. So they have done it. Everybody has a similar model, right? IDC has one, Forrester has one. Everybody has similar models, but it basically looks at usage of data and the value you get from it. So moving from simple MIS kind of a thing to business optimization on the other side. Just to give you a use case, and this is from one of our customers. Your typical MIS use case is telling a salesperson how is he doing against quota, where is his gap, etc., so on and so forth. To the other end, on the business optimization side, is towards for example, what something like Edelweiss is doing, saying that can I advise my customer, which is the person who is sort of working on the loan, is this the right loan to make, right? Via a bunch of analytics. So there is different levels in there. I think there are 4 levels, but yeah, everybody has between 4 and 5 levels in this space.
I'd like to add something here. I think in the traditional world, if you really look at it, IT has been the keepers of data and providers of data, whereas the analysis has been done by the business experts. I mean, people who do the business on a daily basis. But when it comes to data that we talk today, which is sourced from different transactional systems, getting into a BI and then analytics to be done on that, somehow there is an assumption that IT will do the analysis as well, which I think is probably one of the reasons why a lot of these are failing. So I think there is a dire need for the business stakeholders to really take an active role in this. So the so-called data science aspect of it is not just technology. It is actually the business domain knowledge. What is happening in that business day in and day out? That context has to come in terms of when you analyze. So IT will still be the keepers and providers of the data, also facilitators of writing the algorithms, running the algorithms and modifying it and learning it. But if we don't get the business to work with us and business to take an active role, these projects will continue to fail.
Thank you so much everyone for sharing your valuable inputs. Now I would like all the participants to join us for dinner and cocktails.